Race, class, and gender in America has changed throughout American history and continues to change today in the 21st century. Let's take a journey together in important aspects of America's history and see why and how it has changed to become what it is today. We start with race in America with the photo of Puck. The title of this photograph is Uncle Sam's Lodging House. The picture shows an Irishman confronting Uncle Sam in a boarding house filled with laborers and immigrants from several countries who are attempting to sleep. The Frenchman, Japanese, Negro, Russian, Italian, and German sleep peacefully. The Irishman kicks up a roar. He has thrown bricks at the Chinese must go. He is depicting Irish independence. The picture clearly identifies how important race and immigration to America was at this time. The fight for independence was, and how racial discrimination impacted America's culture. It also depicts the reality that immigrants endured tough and crowded living conditions just to immigrate to America. The photo of Puck triggered a great response from my fellow classmates that I reflected on. Besides discrimination, the class digger list from the photo of Puck offered insight into stereotypes that are being shown throughout the image. The American culture consists of stereotypes for all races and nationalities. The Diggle class list allowed everyone to post his or her thoughts and perceptions about the image in reference to American culture. And more importantly, the image depicts that American culture is made up of different races and nationalities. We could say America is a melting pot. Moreover, learning and understanding about the beginning of race and different cultures in early American history is crucial to the change that occurred in later centuries. We move on to whiteness and America's topic of race. This is the photographs titled Coastal Indian School Images. The aspects of race are clearly being depicted throughout both images. The first image was taken when the Chiricahua boys and girls arrived in America. Notice how the boys and girls both have disheveled hair, missing shoes, oversized clothing, and have an impoverished look. The second photograph shows a drastic difference. The children's appearance has changed to depict American culture. These children immigrated to our country with their own culture and identity. However, in order to fit in with America's culture, they had to change physically, socially, and mentally to appear and to be accepted as part of America's society or the middle class. Race in America is clearly illustrated in the following photographs from the U.S. Civil Rights Movement. This picture is an important historical figure named Rosa Parks. This was an important time in history when segregation among blacks and whites existed. Rosa Parks refused to get up and stand in the back of the bus when a white man boarded. She was arrested for breaking Alabama's segregation laws. This photo depicts the beginnings of the fight for equal rights among races. Rosa Parks was the voice for the African American people in America. The necessity to end segregation and discrimination was imminent in America. Change was coming. This is another photo from the Civil Rights Movement. It is a picture of President Lyndon Johnson shaking hands with Martin Luther King Jr. after presenting him with one of the pens used to sign the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Martin Luther King Jr. was a Baptist minister and social activist who played a key role in the American Civil Rights Movement from the mid-1950s until he was assassinated in 1968. He sought equally for African Americans, the economically disadvantaged, and victims of injustice through peaceful protest. If it wasn't for his influence, time and dedication and hard work, race in America would be quite different. His influence continued after his death, and so did the continued fight for equality. We now begin a new chapter of class in America. This is a concept that can be understood as a cultural outcome of income inequality. The photo of Ellie Mae clearly depicts inequality in the classes in American culture. The facial details in Ellie Mae's face shows the pain and suffering that she experienced during the Great Depression. Her photo only confirmed the grave conditions, the hardships, and the social and economic conditions that many people suffered during the 1930s. Ellie Mae's photo triggered a search in our class Diggle site that gave me great insight into the meaning of the photo itself. From the early modern period through the 19th century, the dominant meaning of the word market was highly specific. Market happened at a particular time and place that involved groceries and other provisions, but were built around the sale of perishable goods such as meat. Butcher turnaround historian Thomas DeVoe's market book, for example, details which butchers occurred, which stalls in the public markets of the major eastern seaboard cities. This is a time when class and race actually had a common goal, which was survival. Class in America, 19th century. As we continue to discuss class in America, we move to the 19th century. This is a photo from the Low Mills archive of a young woman changing bobbins. She works in the labor force in the mills of Lowell. Women at this time were just given the opportunity to work in the factories. However, they worked for half the pay that the male gender received, and often had to send their money back home to their families or their brothers to use for their education or own purposes. The story of Eliza and her path in life illustrated how the working class, and particularly women, worked long hours in harsh conditions for low pay. This picture is of Delman Evening Pumps, is a primary source that I selected as an example of the market during the period of economic crisis and prosperity. It targeted the wealthy socialites and celebrities as its customers. These shoes were created by Herman Delman, who was in the footwear industry. The hand-painted metallic leather of these evening pumps is extraordinary. These shoes targeted the upper class. The example of the Delman evening pumps illustrates an example and how the meaning of the market in one sense. However, there were other definitions of the market during this time, especially the labor market, which is made up of the lower and middle classes. Gender in America. Now we enter Unit 3, Gender in America, and how it affects American culture. Gender has gone through dramatic changes from the early centuries up to today. Gender in America affected the dynamics of the typical family, roles of women changing rapidly, and was a source of liberation for gender rights. This photo of Donna Gottschalk is holding a sign that says, "I am your worst fear and your best fantasy," at the Christopher Street Gay Liberation Parade in 1970. This picture focused on how the gender rights movement escalated during the 20th century and targeted women liberation, equality among genders, and gender rights. Times are changing for women and for gender rights issues. More people were fighting for change and equality while facing discrimination. The question of why ideas about gender have changed is something that evolved over time and boomed in the 20th century. Women's role of being a household wife changed. Women sought out an education and equal pay compared to the male gender. Liberation or gender rights exploded with riots, violence, and also peaceful marches in order to provoke change. As we continue to study gender in America in the 20th century, a primary source used for this topic was an article called "Welfare is a Woman's Issue" by Johnny Tillman, published in Miss Magazine. This article is a prime example of women's rights, issues, gender issues, and class at the same time. One can say it could be intertwined. I am a woman, I am a black woman, I am a poor woman, I'm a middle-aged woman, and I'm on welfare. Welfare is like a traffic accident. It can happen to anybody, but especially it happens to women. And this is why welfare is a woman's issue. For a lot of middle-class women in this country, women's liberation is a matter of concern. For women on welfare, it's a matter of survival. This image is an intriguing article written by a brave woman, Johnny Tillman, who was not afraid to speak up for what she believed in. If it wasn't for women like Johnny Tillman who tried to fight for change, America wouldn't be as it is today. American culture has come a long way concerning class, gender, and race due to the many historical events and the brave people who fought for equality and change. Race in America has gone through drastic changes throughout America's history. We started the journey with immigrants that came to America in the hopes for a better life for their families, and went straight to crucial issues of slavery and racial discrimination. Class in America is one area that had its ups and downs in America as centuries passed. We had the Great Depression, which affected the middle class, in addition to the lower class, and put a great strain on all of America. The upper class or privileged class had the most opportunities to enjoy the American dream and the lower class had to endure suffering and continuous emotional and legal battles for rights and better living conditions. Gender in American class and culture changed through the time in America. Women's rights improved by the 20th century, and the role of women changed as time passed. Women fought long and hard for equality and recognition. Unfortunately, women were not given the acknowledgement that they deserved. Gender rights became a big issue that created the Stonewall riots and a dire need for change. Ideas about race, gender, and class in America has changed over time due to historical events in history, changing economy, government roles, and brave people that fought for change. Hopefully, America will continue to change for the better, and all cultures, classes, and genders will be considered equal and have the opportunity to be part of a blended country.